When Hansi Flick arrived at Barcelona, everything changed. The man who once destroyed Barca with Bayern Munich was now the one trying to rebuild it. And for a moment, it actually worked. The team pressed with hunger, the players looked united, and for the first time in years, Barcelona felt alive again. Flick brought order, energy, and belief. Fans saw him as the man who could finally fix what years of chaos had broken. Last season felt like a turning point. Barcelona played with confidence, the Camp Nou had hope again, and even the critics admitted the rebuild was working. But 1 year later, the magic is gone. The same intensity that defined Flick's first months has disappeared. The system looks predictable, the squad exhausted, and the dream that once felt so close is slipping away all over again. This was supposed to be the comeback story, but under Hansi Flick, it's starting to look like history repeating itself. When Hansi Flick arrived in Barcelona, the club wasn't just broken, it was exhausted. Years of instability, failed rebuilds, and financial chaos had left everyone drained. The board was desperate for results, the fans had lost faith, and the players looked like ghosts of a once great era. But Flick didn't come to rebuild the past, he came to rewrite the future. He arrived with a plan. No romantic speeches, no empty promises, just structure, intensity, and accountability. His message was clear: you play for the shirt or you don't play at all. From the first week, everything changed. The training sessions were shorter but sharper, the pressing drills were military. Every player had a role, every pass had a purpose, and for the first time in years, Barcelona looked disciplined. The results came faster than anyone expected. Flick didn't just steady the ship, he made it move again. Barcelona started dominating games, not through possession like the old days, but through precision, power, and relentlessness. He took players who were doubted, Rafinha, Christensen, Ferran Torres, and gave them new life. Even the younger generation, Gavi, Pedri, Balde, looked transformed under him. They pressed harder, fought longer, and played with something rare: belief. The fans began to feel it too. The fear was gone, the energy was back. Camp Nou started to sound like it used to, alive, electric, proud, and for a while, everything pointed in one direction: Barcelona was finally back. But behind the confidence and the structure, something fragile was still hiding beneath the surface. Because while Flick rebuilt the team on discipline and spirit, he couldn't fix the one thing that kept breaking Barcelona over and over again: the cracks that money, pressure, and time always expose. The Flick revolution worked, but it wasn't built to last. No matter how good your tactics are, you can't outcoach a financial crisis. And that's exactly where Hansi Flick found himself. Because behind the passion, the pressing, and the new mentality, Barcelona was still drowning in the same ocean of debt that's been pulling them down for years. The books look clean on paper, but in reality, everything is built on hope and temporary fixes. Deferred salaries, leveraged TV rights, emergency loans. Every solution just pushes the problem a little further down the road. Flick came to rebuild a football team, but what he walked into was an economic minefield. Every transfer window felt like a puzzle with missing pieces. He wanted depth, he got loans. He wanted experience, he got free agents. He wanted options, and instead, he got limits. Players like Gundogan and João Felix brought flashes of quality, but they weren't the long-term answers. Flick was working with a roster that looked strong on the surface, but thin, fragile, and one injury away from disaster. And when those injuries came, Pedri, Gavi, De Jong, the whole system started to wobble. Suddenly, the intensity that once defined Barca turned into exhaustion. The structure started breaking down. And Flick's plan, built on precision, began to crumble under financial reality. Because rebuilding a team is one thing. Rebuilding a team with no money, no flexibility, and no margin for mistakes is something else entirely. Barcelona's biggest enemy isn't Real Madrid, it's their own financial past, a ghost that keeps haunting every new manager who tries to save them. And for Flick, that ghost is getting louder every week. When Hansi Flick arrived, his plan was clear. He didn't want Barcelona to be the slow, possession-obsessed team that got stuck passing the ball sideways for 90 minutes. He wanted intensity, pressing, movement, and vertical football. For the first time in years, Barcelona looked fast. They attacked with purpose, they defended as a unit, and for a while it worked beautifully. Flick's 4-2-3-1 system brought balance. De Jong controlled the tempo, Pedri connected the lines, and Gavi, when healthy, gave the team a pulse. Even the back line, often criticized in past seasons, started to look more secure under his compact shape. The football wasn't always beautiful, but it was efficient and ruthless when it needed to be. But over time, the rhythm began to fade. Teams started adapting. They stopped playing into Barcelona's press and began exploiting the spaces behind it. And suddenly, Flick's biggest strength, his intensity, became his biggest weakness. When the midfield tired, the press broke down. When the press broke down, the defense was left exposed, and once that chain collapsed, everything else followed. Barcelona started to look robotic, predictable in attack, fragile in defense, and lifeless without the ball. There was no variation, no unpredictability, no creativity from deep. Every game felt like a repeat of the last one. Same patterns, same problems, same frustrations. And Flick's stubbornness didn't help. He believed in his system so much that even when it clearly wasn't working, he refused to adapt. No tactical flexibility, no real plan B. If the press failed, the entire match failed with it. It's a dangerous philosophy, one that worked in Germany when you had world-class depth at Bayern Munich, but not in a financially wounded Barcelona, where every substitution feels like a compromise. The numbers prove it. Barcelona's pressing efficiency dropped by nearly 20% this season, while their average possession means less and less. They're running more, but creating less, controlling games less, and the fear they once inspired is starting to fade away. Even players like Lewandowski, who thrived early under Flick, now look isolated, frustrated, and disconnected from the rhythm of the team. You can feel the energy drop after every misplaced pass, every wasted counterattack, every drawn-out build-up. And that's when you realize something deeper. It's not just that the tactics stopped working, it's that the belief behind them is fading too. Flick built a system that needed perfection, but perfection doesn't exist in football, not for long. And when the system starts breaking down, you need adaptation, not repetition. That's where Barcelona is stuck right now, somewhere between what worked yesterday and what's no longer working today. There's one thing about Hansi Flick that nobody can deny. He demands everything from his players. Every run, every duel, every press has to be perfect. It's what made his Bayern Munich legendary. But at Barcelona, it's starting to destroy them. The signs were there early. Pedri breaking down again after just a few weeks of brilliance. Gavi gone for the season after pushing his body too far. De Jong carrying the midfield alone until he couldn't anymore. These aren't coincidences. They're symptoms of a system that runs on overload. Flick's football is beautiful when it works, but it's brutal on the body. It doesn't allow rest. It doesn't allow rhythm. It pushes young legs to veteran limits, and veteran legs past their breaking point. Barcelona's medical staff is overwhelmed. Every week feels like another press conference about a new injury. And suddenly what was once Flick's biggest strength, his relentless intensity, has become his biggest flaw. Because when your best players are on the sidelines, discipline means nothing. The press loses shape, the passes lose precision, and the entire identity of the team begins to collapse. Lewandowski looks tired. Even the young players, once symbols of energy, look drained, both physically and emotionally. It's the same story every season. A few months of brilliance, followed by months of exhaustion, a team that starts like a machine, and ends up looking broken by its own design. And Flick, for all his experience, hasn't learned the balance yet. His style demands total control, but at this level, control has a cost. Barcelona are paying that cost in blood, sweat, and torn muscles. This isn't bad luck, it's the price of perfection, and sooner or later, every player breaks. At Barcelona, pressure isn't a visitor. It lives there, and when results start to fade, it comes back stronger than ever. At first, everyone loved Flick's calmness, his discipline, his professionalism. He was the perfect contrast to the chaos that came before him. But now, that same calmness feels like silence. Fans are starting to lose patience. They see the same problems repeating: inconsistency, fatigue, and a team that looks lost under pressure. Every draw feels like a loss. Every bad performance becomes a debate. The Spanish media, always waiting for a story, has found its new obsession. Is Flick really the man to lead Barcelona forward? Every press conference turns into an interrogation. Every lineup choice becomes a controversy. And the whispers inside the club are getting louder. Some of the players, especially the veterans, are reportedly frustrated with Flick's training intensity. Others, like the younger generation, still defend him. But the divide is real. It's small now, quiet, but growing. And inside the boardroom, the pressure is boiling. Laporta's project depends on success. There's no money left for another rebuild, no time to start over again. So Flick can't just survive, he has to deliver. The same board that once called him the future is now looking at him like a question mark. Because in Barcelona, the line between genius and failure is thinner than anywhere else in football. The fans want results, the media want drama, and the club wants control. It's a storm Flick has seen before, but this time he doesn't have a Bayern Munich squad to save him. This is Barcelona, and here, pressure doesn't destroy you overnight. It eats you slowly, one bad headline at a time. Barcelona's biggest problem has never been tactics, it's identity. For decades, this club stood for something clear: beautiful football, youth development, and loyalty to a philosophy that changed the sport. You didn't just win at Barcelona, you won a certain way. That's what made it special. That's what made it bigger than football. But now, no one really knows what Barcelona is anymore. Under Flick, they don't play tiki-taka. They don't dominate with possession. They don't crush teams with pressing either. They're somewhere in between, efficient but empty, structured but soulless. The DNA that once made this club unique has been diluted by desperation. They've borrowed styles from everywhere. A bit of Bayern's intensity, a bit of City's precision, a bit of their own past. But nothing feels truly theirs. When you watch Barcelona now, you see effort, yes, but not identity. The academy still produces talent, but the transition from La Masia to the first team feels broken. Players like Lamine Yamal shine in flashes, but they're being thrown into a system that doesn't know who it wants to be. The football is mechanical, calculated, stripped of the emotion that once made it poetry. And the worst part, even the fans are starting to accept it. They don't expect magic anymore. They just hope for results. But Barcelona was never about results. It was about dominance, about beauty, about belief. That's what made them a religion, not just a club. And now under Flick's rebuild, that essence, that soul, is fading into something unrecognizable. Because when you lose what makes you you, even victory starts to feel like defeat. Barcelona has been here before. The faces change, the managers change, the slogans change. But the story, it's always the same. A new coach brings hope, the team plays with fire, the fans believe the cycle of failure has finally ended. And then it all fades. Because the real problem was never just on the pitch. It's in the structure, the expectations, the obsession with image over progress. Every rebuild at Barcelona collapses the same way, under the pressure of its own history. Hansi Flick is not a bad coach. He's disciplined, he's intelligent, he's experienced, but he's trying to rebuild a house that's already cracked beneath its foundation, a house that wants to live in the past, while pretending to build for the future. Right now, Barcelona doesn't need another rebuild. It needs a reckoning. It needs to decide what kind of club it wants to be. Because rebuilding without direction isn't progress, it's repetition. And that's the truth about Barcelona's story under Hansi Flick. It isn't a tragedy, it's a loop. The same hope, the same mistakes, the same ending, until someone someday finally breaks the cycle.